Hey guys, we are the Jersey Comic Crew, and today we are talking the top 5 questions about Wonder Woman 1984. Come on inside and ask some questions.
Hi guys, Chris and Rob here from the Jersey Comic Crew, and like Chris just said, we're doing our top 5 biggest questions of Wonder Woman 84. There's questions that you want answered, and we're here to try to answer those questions to the best of our abilities. So the first one we wanted to talk about is the Steve Trevor conundrum. Now, Chris, I know we were talking a little bit off air. You had some issues with this.
Yeah, I thought bringing Chris Pine back is, they were going to do it regardless somehow, right? It's Chris Pine. He's Captain Kirk. He should be Hal Jordan. That's for another day. But the aspect of him coming back, and then it was him, but it wasn't him, and what happened to this guy's life, it's almost like it was like an Invasion of the Body Snatchers movie.
That's exactly what it was.
It was there to give me that emotional tie to the first movie, but I didn't feel it. Because when Diana's at that party and all of us men had to see the horrificness of a gorgeous woman walking through a party getting just heckled at. Yes. I needed a shower. I was like, oh God, I hate men. The aspect of her going through and it's like, oh great, another guy hitting on me, which is obviously why she doesn't go to parties.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this guy who we're like, who the hell is this guy? And then he gives her the watch and it just randomly turns into Steve. That moment I think was supposed to be like, oh my God, it's Steve. Like my heart's swelling. But I felt nothing. I felt nothing, and it was odd throughout.
Is it because you're the Tin Man?
That's definitely a part of it. Part of it's because I have no emotion and soul. Okay. But the major part is it didn't make sense because everyone kind of got their wish. And yes, they lost something. But why couldn't Steve come back in his own body? Is it because he was more of a soul because he was dead? Or
yeah, so the reason I think he couldn't come back into his body, like from the wishes that we saw, like it's within the powers that be. It's not like they're gonna recreate a body. Like they created missiles out of thin air. So you're like, why not create a body?
Came out of the ground.
Well, that's fine because like it's from the earth. They just push the earth up, right? And then there's no earth underneath. Maybe like his body's already gone and decayed. So his soul was quote unquote alive, like he said, and then it just went into a new body. I'm with you. I think if you're creating things out of thin air, like missiles that just dissipated, then you should be able to theoretically create a body. But I don't think they wanted to touch upon that trope because it's like, oh, then you could just bring people back from the dead. They want to try to avoid that this early. I think it was just like his body's gone. It's destroyed. They can't recreate it. His soul is going to go into a living person's body. It's not as nice as I would have liked it. I understand why they did it. And the fact that we saw Steve Trevor's face, because that's what Wonder Woman sees when she's looking at him, right? She sees the true essence of the person behind the facade of a face.
I agree. So was Chris Pine just in here because he was familiar and obviously a better actor?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That's exactly why.
He looks in the mirror and it's the other guy.
Correct.
Right? Like in that scene in the house and they sleep together.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going on this like adventure now. But does everyone see him as this guy?
Yes.
Or Steve Trevor? Does she look at him and it's Steve Trevor? Like, it's so confusingly weird because also this guy has a life, right? Like this guy's a life. Has he just not been to his job for a week and a half? Nope. Is he fired? Like, is his rent due? Like, who's paying his bills? Does he have a cat he hasn't fed? Like all these are questions.
Well, the bills in the 80s.
Like where did his soul go? And he's alive. Where the hell did that guy go?
That's true.
And then when at the end he's like there, like does he just not remember? Which also doesn't make sense because clearly everyone remembered what happened.
His soul maybe got put to sleep because if it was suppressed, he would know. You're
really trying to explain them out of their own plot hole. Like
I'm trying to understand why they did this.
Did he go to the Soul movie on Pixar and Disney? Like where was he?
Which I heard was fantastic. I haven't watched it.
It's amazing. I saw it last.
I think Chris Pine was there because he's the better actor. We're seeing him from Wonder Woman's perspective. I get that. His body was destroyed, so that's why he had to go back into his soul. Why that particular person? We don't know. That wasn't explained. Why not create a new body if they could create missiles out of thin air and destroy them? I don't know. So another thing about weird consequences of actions, Max Lord, did he get any trouble for his actions? I'm going to go with the no. I don't think he got any repercussions for his actions because people think he's just a business tycoon. On paper, he hasn't done anything quote unquote illegal, right? But people still know that he granted wishes, right? Because the president of the United States is like, I renounce my wish. If Wonder Woman convinced him to do that, obviously the president's like, all right, this guy did something sketchy, but I don't think they could pin anything on him. Just like how Lex Luthor loopholes himself out of getting out of trouble. He's like, I did bad things, but technically it's not illegal. I think that's what's happening with Max Lord here. I would have rather him get in trouble and gone to jail. I don't know. It just left a dirty taste in my mouth.
Yeah, that whole final scene, I was just kind of like, wait, what? Because one, he just miraculously shows up in the middle of DC, right?
Yeah, how'd he get there?
After he was like in this kind of Zordon vortex from like Power Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, how did he find his kid so fast? Like his kid just came out of the trees. There he is. He's in the trees.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, we don't see any like repercussions. Like even in Batman Superman, we saw Lex in jail.
Yes.
Right. Even though that was another story. But this, like, there's no like, everyone seems to remember these wishes. Like, this is a crazy day in the 80s where like the world almost ended. Right, the entire world almost blew up. There was almost nuclear war and famine. People were wishing for people to die.
Oh yeah.
Like, it was stuff was just crazy, and it's just a day where like no one talks about, like the worst day at the family reunion type thing. Like, yeah, we just don't talk about that. We ignore it. We're in denial.
Yeah, like oh,
that's so crazy.
Did you kill your wife, and she told all of your relatives and the whole genocide of Irish people to get away? Like, do we not forget about that? Like, we're getting a divorce, lady. I killed you. You told me to go back to Ireland. We were getting arrested. Yeah, I
didn't understand how, like, Max in general, if they would have just stuck to his entirety of comic book trope, right? He can mind control you. It's not wishes. I think it would have been so much better. Like, I don't understand why they turned it into this like dark magic genie thing.
I'm fine with the dark magic they did with him. What I don't like, I think what your issue is as well, or something that's taken away on that, is that he uses his powers and affected the world, and at the end there's no tidy up and clean up for the world. It's still in disarray. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
if it was like
on the ground.
If there was magic to use to solve everything to bring it back to more normal, like nothing ever happened, I don't think we'd have that much issue with Maxwell or doing that. But I like you said, Chris, if you wish his powers were like it was, if it was toned down and maybe stealing the health out of a group of people, or maybe all these politicians, and Wonder Woman stopped that instead of the world getting destroyed, and she just saved the world from being destroyed because he was going to kill all of Parliament or all of the Congress, right? That makes sense, but like they went too big with the threat, and the resolution was too small.
Usually, there was too many like tendrils out there, and it became like crap. We have all these things, and we can't wrap them up cleanly. And once you do like wishes, that's not easy to do for the best of movies.
Exactly.
Right?
Speaking of like leaving loose ends out there, we see Barbara's wish, right? So Barbara kind of got benefits of two wishes, right? So the first wish was to be like Diana, right? Have her strength, her beauty, and all that kind of stuff. She said she gave up her humanity, right? She's not a nice person anymore. She's mean, even to that homeless man that she was friends with.
Oh, that was so nice in the beginning.
The second thing that she got the benefit of the drawback of other people's wishes. All of their animosity and hate and prowess went to her. Now, when we saw her at the end, she looked human, right? So obviously the second part of that wish was rescinded because everybody in the world was rescinding their wishes, even Max himself, right? So does that mean her first wish is still there? She never unwished it? Also, is the Dreamstone still out there? Because like his wish was originally to be the one with the Dreamstone. Does that mean the Dreamstone is back in some location? Does Barbara now have it and she's holding it and that's why she was crouched and hidden? I don't know.
That's a really good question. I didn't even think about the Dreamstone trope of like when Max rescinded his wish, is the stone like magically reappearing somewhere?
Maybe she
almost
has
like
it.
You know, almost like Shenron with the Dragon Balls kind of thing. But I would say for Barbara, I don't think her full wish is gone. I think she wished to like maybe the second wish, right? Like you said, she had the advantage of she had the stone herself, made that wish, and then Max was able to give her another one. I think Barbara may still be powerful and
Mm-hmm.
have that strength and be able to walk in heels now and all that good stuff. But now it's not like, hey, I don't look like a furry, or I don't look like I belong in the Cats movie.
Ha.
Or maybe she could change in and out of it.
Oh,
Maybe it's
we
more
didn't even
like,
think
hey,
of
I want
that.
control of my life. I want to be able to like I rescind the maybe she rescinded just the animosity and wanted to become the person she is, because you had that moment where Diana's like, you lost this, like look what you sacrificed, you were my friend, you were like a beautiful soul, you were a kind gentle human being in that movie, that like, hey, she doesn't really have many friends, right? She's very closed off, she doesn't
Correct.
really trust anybody. So that was even a big step for her to be friends with her in the beginning. So
I'm thinking she still might have the Dreamstone and might make another wish or use something. But like talking about the stone, right? Like the god that created the stone, they said it was the essentially created by the god of lies, right? Doing some research on the Googles, we learned that the spirit of trickery and of lies is called Dolos. But we didn't really get that in this Wonder Woman movie. And the reason we're bringing that up, right, is because Wonder Woman is so intrinsically tied to the gods. You know, Zeus is her father. We see all that in the first movie with Ares. In this movie, they said it's the god of lies and they stopped it. Like, she had to get Barbara to look it up. They talked to some weird guy who had a book.
yeah.
And that's how she figured out who it was. But we know that the Elasticals see truth. So, you know, Chris, I know you were saying off camera, like, she could just take that lasso and put it around either that guy or the stone or that little ring that was there. And maybe we get like a flashback of who created it and like what god is behind this.
Yeah, like the stone itself, when they go to get the ring and you have that moment where Diana touches it and it's almost like too powerful for her. It's almost like that Indiana Jones moment, and then the seal comes on like Lord of the Rings, right? And she goes, it's the language of the gods. Like everyone kind of is like, oh,
Oh,
who's showing up?
what's going on?
Who we got? Who's gonna show up? Because you give us that moment of like, we're gonna get a Greek god messing with something, and they're still around, and this is still happening.
Yeah, we know that they're alive or like at least created this or responsible for this.
Yeah, and then it just leaves it, right, and doesn't touch it. And instead of like maybe Steve saying, "Hey, like Diana, don't touch it, use your lasso," or something like that, right? Maybe tying it up, and then it sends her into a flashback of either who created it or why it's there, and it connects to the gods. Like that would have been awesome, man. Like if you have Wonder Woman, you want to see Wonder, like Cheetah's
Yes.
great, but like the gods have to be in it somehow, right?
How cool would it have been to see like the little evil spirit of lies making it, and we find out that Ares was the one who forced the spirit to make it? We're like, oh, that ties in the first movie. Or it's like a different god, maybe Hades forced the guy, the spirit of lies to make it for his entertainment. And like, oh, that sets up the next movie because we know we're gonna get one of the strongest Amazonians in the next movie. What's better than two Amazonians teaming up to take down Hades, one of the big three with Zeus, Poseidon, right? They're all brothers. Like, that makes sense to me. That sounds amazing. But they just dropped the whole Greek aspect after that first scene. And like we said in a previous video, the whole use of the lasso of truth was just as a weapon. They didn't use it really to show the truth, except for that one scene, which we got with the armor, which was fantastic.
That was a good scene.
We could have saw that again. Like, oh, maybe she wrapped it around when she wrapped it around Max Lord, right? And she got it. Maybe she also used that to see the truth behind Max, why he's doing it. And we get a tragic flashback because we kind of got a flashback of Max towards the end. But like, how great would it have been like in the I was gonna say President's Suite. How great would it have been at the White House while they're fighting? She grabs him and she holds him. She sees the truth that they both make a connection. She's like, oh, he's doing this because of his son. Boom, you don't have to worry about that. Oh, because everybody joked at him. Boom. That way it takes away time for that third act and you could have done something else. You got that now. You feel even more for those characters. You're like, oh, the lasso of truth sees the truth in other people too if she wants to. You would have created more cool lore and mystery behind Wonder Woman. Like, oh my God, she could do all these things instead of just this amazing warrior who could do these things. Like, she would have been more than just a warrior.
If you give us that moment of flashback with that ring or we see the god stuff, how would that tie into Diana's past? Right? Because we know she's been alive for thousands of years or hundreds of years.
Yeah.
And what if this character in the background, one of these gods, you know, Wonder Woman's a secret, right? So if she's, every time she has to do something, is it this person in the background where Diana basically has to fix history or continue, you know, to stop these tragedies from happening that we could have seen in her past? The first one was big on her past, right? We see the picture in Batman Superman where you get her awesome theme music.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? She was around in World War One? What the hell? You know, like all this stuff. How does that kind of play into her timeline every time she has to like chance possibly being noticed or seen? And I thought that would have been something cool too, to kind of give us more backstory of Diana, not just like, all right, we see her here, we see her here, we see her here, and this is what she does. But yeah.
Last big question. It's the obvious big question whenever you watch a movie. Is there a sequel? Will there be a Wonder Woman 3? I think with the after credit scene, there's going to be, right? We'll see Wonder Woman meet up with Hysteria, that Linda Carter's character. I'm sure they're going to play something in between with each other. But if they don't fill in that thread, I don't know what they're going to do next. Maybe it's going to be like Wonder Woman post-launch, right? Maybe it's going to be afterwards. Maybe they're going to be done with catching up Wonder Woman where she is now. I don't know, but it seems like a lot of people know who Wonder Woman is too, right? In the beginning, she was kind of like destroying cameras to kind of keep it secret. And now she's like, oh, I'm telling the world, stop it, don't do this.
That's what I question the whole movie, where I'm like, okay, so does no one know about this entire day in 1984 where everyone got like $10 million just appeared in your house and you either rescinded that for some reason or not?
Why?
And no one talks about it. Like, how is that something no one connects Diana to as well, right? Where it comes to like, she's clearly all around here, right? She's everywhere. You're going to see this gorgeous goddess running full speed with a glowing rope.
She was on every TV in the world.
I don't know if she was. Well, she had the lasso attached to him. She was speaking through him.
Oh,
I don't know.
So maybe nobody didn't see her, I guess.
But still, like,
is
you're
that
gonna
the
see,
cop
like,
out, really?
In the middle of DC, you saw her running through the street, jumping into the air. You know what I mean? And again, this historical day of like, hey, the world almost ended with nuclear warfare and everything stopped. And no one references this. You know what I mean? So that's a really tough trope to get behind, where like she's still a secret in like 2019 or 2018.
Well, now after hearing you talk a little bit, I was like, I can see how it could still be a secret, because like if the only time people saw her or realized it was during the chaos of her running down the street and jumping, maybe there's one or two photos back then that might have caught it and then they had it. Because if nobody saw her, they just heard her voice talking, some angel told intervened, right? It could have been like that.
Well,
I can still see
internet though.
The internet in the 80s that was
no, I mean like now, like we saw Bruce Wayne with a little digging was like, you've been alive since World War One.
Yeah.
Who the hell and what the hell are you?
She left, essentially, like, these are breadcrumbs. This is another breadcrumb that like he found, right? It's not, looking back, it's not that obvious, but it's obvious for someone like Bruce Wayne who does digging, trying to find this person, not find it by happenstance, right? So I can see that.
Yeah, that's tough. And then I would say for the last question of just Wonder Woman 3 in general, I don't think there's going to be another one until post Flashpoint.
I hope so, because Flashpoint needs to fix everything, like just reset everything, clean it up, please.
Yeah, like I don't think there's going to be like a Wonder Woman 93, right? And I don't think there's going to be, like a VH1 We Love the 90s hits or like 2000s Wonder Woman. I think we're going to get maybe Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman in possibly another movie. Maybe even Flashpoint would make sense.
Yeah.
Right? To have her in that movie. Obviously, we're going to get the Snyder Cut in around March next year. So maybe that's it. But I don't think there's going to be another one until post Flashpoint and they figure out what direction they're going in and how this is going to move forward as a unit. Because like focusing on standalone movies isn't a bad thing, especially for Warner Brothers and DC, who spent so much time trying to catch up with Marvel for some reason instead of doing their own thing and pacing. But you got to do it and make sense of it if you have movies that are down the line. So I think hopefully Flashpoint kind of sets everything right, and then they can focus on bringing Wonder Woman back in a big bad way.
Like you said, Flashpoint's going to be the movie that's going to reorganize and structure the direction of the DC universe. For me, with knowing that in mind, maybe I should be less concerned about the plot holes and about what happens in the world, because I know it's going to get reset, and more focus on how these movies speak to the characters and create buzz for the characters and create love for these characters. But guys, I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below on the questions that we proposed. And if there's any questions that we might have missed that you want answered about the Wonder Woman movie, blah, 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 blah. If there's any questions about Wonder Woman 84 that we missed, throw them down in the comments below. We'll be sure to answer them. We love doing all this stuff for you guys.
And guys, make sure you give us a thumbs up, like. Really helps the channel out a lot. We appreciate it so much. And if you're new, subscribe, click those notifications. You don't want to miss any more videos, any questions, any speculation we have moving forward. And as always, I'm Chris Heller. That's Rob Moran. We're the Jersey Comic Crew, and we'll see you next time.